Dear students, in the last class we have discussed about what is ecosystem and what are the producers and consumers and energy flows in the ecosystem. Component of ecosystems are abiotic component and biotic component. Now we are going to discuss in the detail. So students, in the last class we have discussed about what is ecosystem, what are the components of ecosystem, that is biotic and abiotic. In the biotic we include producers and consumers, and in abiotic component we include air, water, land. So we have discussed in the ecosystem energy flows means from sun, plant traps the energy from the sun, then the plant transfer this energy to consumers. So plants save this energy, solar energy, in the form of food by the reaction of photosynthesis. Then this energy is transferred from producer to consumers. So in the food web you can see, yes.
Ma'am, attendance, ma'am. Oh, at last will you take it?
No, you are here only to give the attendance. You don't want to
No,
attend
ma'am,
the
I have
class.
actually joined
Why are
in
you
late,
asking?
ma'am.
Why are you asking now? Okay.
Ma'am, I have joined actually in late, ma'am. That's why I'm asking you.
This food web is connected by the in the figure you can see food web is connected by different chains, different food chains. So energy flows by the food chains. What is the purpose of the food chain? Energy flow from from sun to producer, then producer to consumer. So this energy, so solar energy is trapped by the plant and they synthesize the food during the reaction of photosynthesis. Then they plant transfer this energy to consumers. In the consumers we have different categories of consumer like primary consumer, secondary and tertiary. So we are going to discuss about all these relationship. What are the feeding relationship among the organisms? Because in the food web all the organisms are connected because of their feeding habits. So it shows, this figure shows the feeding habits. In the figure we can see by the arrow all the organisms are connected with nature. So this is the food web shows the energy flows so because in the different systems we have in the one ecosystem also we have different food chains, and these are also interconnected by each other. So this makes the food web. So the function, what is the function of ecological niches? It includes the habitat and the eating patterns. So the how the animal eats, what are the eating pattern, and how they behave, what special kind of food they eat. So it is defined by ecological niches. No two species occupy identical niches, means they do not feed on the same. Sometimes means it happens the same species can feed on the different kind of foods. Okay. So here in the figure we can see how the ecosystem run, because there are the two component of the in the ecosystem. There are the two component, biotic and abiotic, and to understand the ecosystem concept we can define it at the structure level and functional level. So at the structure level means it is divided into two components, biotic and abiotic, living and non-living. Okay. And in the functional level, if we want to define it on the functional level, like what is the function of ecosystem? Flow of energy, that is important. Flow of energy. And how it happens? By the food chain and food web. And producers and consumers are the important component of food chain. So now we are studying the feeding relationship and how the energy flows from one trophic level to another, because flow of energy is important in whole universe. Flow of energy is important. So who are the producer? Plants are the producer. They trap the solar energy from the sun, from the universe, from sun. So it comes on the earth. So only plant used to trap. Only in the last class, like you have seen, like only 0.23% of total is saved. Only 0.23% is saved by the plants as a food. Somebody was saying something.
किसी का ऑन हो गया था मैम गलती से.
Producers and consumers are the important component of food chain, any food chain. So plants are the producer and plant trap the energy from sun. So how energy come on the earth, how it is transferred by the plant. Plant used to do that. So plant producers are mostly always plants and trees and grass. So plant trap the energy from sun. It is only 0.23%. So other energy means you can imagine sun is the powerful source of energy and we are unable to use that all the energy. Only plant can use the 0.23%. So much energy is available on the earth. So that is why the people are working to trap this energy. They are making the electronic device that is running by the photovoltaic panel, the solar energy. So we need to do more work on that to develop that technology, because so much energy is available and plant only trap 0.23% of the total energy. Why it is not? So plant trap only 0.23% of energy. So this is the important source. Sun is the important source of energy. So we have so much energy and we can utilize that energy if we develop the more efficient technology like photovoltaic panel or solar devices. Now we are studying how this energy is transferred in the nature. So producer trap that energy and it is transferred from producer to consumers. Okay, what are the producers? Producers are most always plants, trees, grass, algae. So these are the all means which contain chlorophyll. They trap the solar energy, then they make the food. Consumers are living things that eat producers and other consumers. Okay, animals. So in this figure, it is clearly visible only. You can clearly see only 0.23% energy is utilized. So these are the different forms of energy. Okay, so 30% reflected by clouds, 90% observed by 0.023%. So this is absorbed by the plant. So this is the small amount of energy which is utilized in the photosynthesis. In the photosynthesis, food is produced. That is sugar plus oxygen is produced using the carbon dioxide plus water. So this happens in the what happened in the photosynthesis. Plant trap the solar energy. They utilize the carbon dioxide and they form the sugar plus oxygen. Okay, that oxygen is then inhaled by all the animals and which is utilized in the respiration. By the respiration we used to get the energy. So respiration is the reaction. Cellular respiration is the reaction how we get the energy by the respiration. So whenever we inhale oxygen, what happens in our body? Our food is broken down. That food is oxidized. Then this food gives energy like carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. Then this carbon dioxide is again exhaled into the atmosphere. Energy then it is transferred from producer to consumer. So this is the important chain. There is a feeding relationship between producer and consumers, and that is how energy transferred from one trophic level to another. Consumers are living things that eat producers and other consumers. These are called animals. They feed on the some animals feed on the producer like plants. In consumers we have different categories of consumers like subcategory like primary, secondary, tertiary. So tertiary feed on secondary consumer. Tertiary feed on secondary consumer. Secondary feed on primary consumer. There are different categories of animals like herbivorous, carnivorous, omnivorous, scavenger. In the last class also we have discussed about this. Okay, here so you can see different categories are here like herbivorous plant. They feed on producers, organisms that eat on plants or producers. These are not herbivorous. Carnivorous organisms that they feed on means herbivorous means primary consumers. What herbivorous are? Primary consumers because they are first in the chain. Carnivorous that feed on the animal like herbivorous animals. They feed on other animals. By the feeding habit we can define Carnivorous means they, because they feed on the other animals. Omnivorous, that feed on both plants and animals. So these animals are known as omnivores. Scavengers are, they feed on the, okay, they also feed on the animals. What are the scavengers? Because they are responsible for the, they feed on the dead animals. Scavengers. So they involve in the decomposition. Now this is the example of herbivorous organisms that eat plants and other producers. So you can see the example of herbivorous like buffalo, cow, or deer. So these are the different categories of herbivorous animals. Now carnivores, who are the carnivores? So only few are given, but they are different, like somebody is here. Organisms that eat other animals. So within the carnivores, you can see in the picture there are the different, like lions, crocodiles, whale. So there are the different animals which is being shown in the figure. They feed on the other animals. So carnivorous animals feed on the other animals. Now omnivores, organisms that eat both plants and animals. Okay, like monkey, chimpanzee, bear. Okay, so these are animals. Human is also included in this. So human is also like omnivores, means because they feed on both animals and plants. Scavenger, organisms that feed on remains of another organism. These are known as scavenger because they feed on the residual part, like dead organic organisms. So scavenger because they are involved in cleansing, or scavenger means they also feed on the, like excretory material on the, means the residue that is left by other animal, they also feed on that. So scavenger, we can give example of like pig. Pig is the one animal that feed on the remains of another organism. Food chain, a sequence of organisms each feeding on the next. So in the food chain, all the organisms are connected by each other because for their food requirement they are dependent on each other. Like pine cone, okay, red squirrel feed on pine cone, then weasel feed on red squirrel, then gosh hawk feed on weasel. So this is the relationship. This is one kind of food chain in which different organisms are connected with each other for the energy. So at the bottom you can see the energy is coming from the sun, and there is the physical environment like air, water, soil. So producer get the energy. This is also the good figure. Producer get energy from sun. They used to trap the energy from sun, and then this energy is transferred to herbivorous. Herbivorous feed on the plants. So herbivorous is one kind of consumer. Okay, primary consumer you can say. Then other organisms that are carnivorous or omnivorous, they feed on that. So these omnivorous and carnivorous are also another category of the consumers, like secondary, tertiary. So these are the different categories of consumers in which they feed. So indirectly they are driving the energy which has been trapped by the producers. Then decomposers or scavengers, they feed on these animals. Okay. So what is the role of decomposers? They feed on the dead organisms because they are involved in the cleansing. They are responsible for the cleansing activity in the environment. So this makes the cycle, this makes the ecosystem perfect environment. The atmosphere is cleaned in the nature. So we don't need to clean the atmosphere. So it is spontaneously happening in the nature. So energy is transferring. So now today we are learning how the energy flows from sun to consumers. So what is the role of food chain and food web to transfer the energy between different organisms? The arrow point to the consumer. They simply show feeding relationship. So means food chain, what it shows? They show the feeding relationship. Create a sample. So we can try this exercise, like create a sample food chain using the following, like grass, snake, snail, birds. You can connect these organisms with each other, how they are dependent. So by the arrow you can show who feed on the grass, like birds feed on the grass, or insect, or who feed on the snail. So you can make the relationship. What happens when one link is broken in a food chain? Sometimes the link is broken in the food chain, so that becomes threat to that ecosystem because it breaks the flow of energy. If the food chain is breaking, that means energy flow is breaking. So we need to take care of them. We need to, if we want to restore the system, if we want the environment to restore, we need to restore the system also, and then we need to restore that missing link in the food chain or food web. So but actual practice is what we are doing for the environment. We are just working on the above level. The people who are not aware from what is missing link from the ecosystem, producer, consumer, which link is missing, so they are involved in that, like NGOs. So we are only doing the plantation. We shows the plantation of few trees, then we used to take snaps or picture. That is what is the purpose of those environmental activities, the environment protection activities. So we need to actually work on the ground level so that we can work in the restoration process. Nature restore the ecosystem spontaneously. We should provide the missing link. We should only work to restore the missing link in the food chain so that the system can work, because energy flows should not be broken down. Energy should flow. So energy should flow in any system. For any system to survive, energy flow should be there. Now what is trophic level? Trophic level of an organism in an ecosystem depend on its feeding position along a food chain. Means producers are on the same place. So producer level is known as zero level, zero trophic level. Okay. Now there is another level of herbivorous. So producers are known as first trophic level. According to this figure, it is. So in the figure also we can see, like here in the triangle you can see producers, herbivorous, like these are primary consumers, then secondary consumers. I think, are you able to see? Then tertiary consumer feed on the secondary. So primary consumer feed on the producer, then secondary consumers feed on the primary consumers, then tertiary consumers feed on the secondary consumers. So what is the first level of first trophic level? That is producer. Second trophic level, primary consumers. So in the triangle you can see these are the different level, trophic level, like producer, primary consumer, then secondary consumer, and tertiary. So here in the triangle, 4 levels are shown. Okay, first, second, third, and fourth. So these are the 4 trophic levels. So energy flows from first trophic level to. Okay, primary consumers depend on producers. They eat on producers. Okay. Fourth trophic level means consumers, tertiary consumers. They feed on secondary, and secondary feed on primary. This is the question raised by the, I think the, somebody has a question. Are you able to see the figure? Are you able to see the figure?
No, ma'am.
Slide.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what is written in the slide, like the primary consumer. This is a relationship, and in the food web, different organisms are connected with each other. A much more accurate display of who eats who. Representation of feeding relationship within a community. Means in the community we have different kind of organisms, and they feed on different organs. So it is highly complex because different food chains are connected with each other. Consumer feed on many species. Sometimes one consumer feed on different animals. So here you can see, so this is the example, you can see the boreal forest web. So different organisms are connected with each other. Now in this figure also you can see there are the different organisms. Okay, great horned owl, goshawk, lynx. Okay, so these are the different organisms. Weasels, red squirrel, snowshoe, hare. So and in the first level you can see these are the categories of plants, like pine tree, blueberry bush, aspen tree, wild grasses. So there are the different categories of the plants that are eaten by the squirrel. So primary consumer, then secondary consumer, then tertiary. So in the figure you can see like producers, then primary consumers, then secondary, then tertiary. In this food web, the goshawk is eaten by the great horned owl. what two animals eat all the plants. So here you can see these are the two animals, like hare and red square, they are eating the different plant. They can eat on different plant. They have the multiple choice of plants. So like primary consumers has more choice because they are eating vegetarian food. They have more choice. They can feed on different types of plants. So in the food web, these food chains are connected with each other. So this is the complex network of food chain. What is food web? Are very useful when figuring out what species is remove the number of animals that would normally eat, it would decrease by. So the introduction of a new species can also dramatically alter the food web as new feeding patterns. Sometimes there may be the new feeding pattern, means one animal can be dependent on different kind of food. So this establishes the different pattern. And sometimes there is the introduction of new species in the food web. So this can change the feeding patterns. Sometimes a species is removed from the number of animals. So this may change the feeding pattern. If somebody is not getting sufficient food, so animal can choose another animal or another food as a food choice. So this may happen if one species is not available in the food web. So what he will do, what the animal will do for their food, they will search for the new kind of food. Sometimes the another animal can be introduced in the food web. This can change the feeding pattern. If the animals are not getting sufficient food, they can feed on. So this is the another figure. In this figure, what you are able to see, the different organisms are. So this is the food chain in the aquatic systems. Like in the aquatic system, we have aquatic plants. Aquatic plants are eaten up by the rusty crayfish or the different organisms. They feed on the aquatic plants. So there are the different categories of animal like worm, leech, snail. So leech feed on the animals. They used to suck the blood of animals also. So like human also. There are the different kind of fishes. So there are the different kind of fishes. So there are different kinds of animals. They used to feed on the. So this is the chain of aquatic ecosystem. In the aquatic systems, we have phytoplanktons. We have small plants. Then we have small organisms that are known as zooplanktons. Then we have primary consumers also, and then we have secondary and tertiary. So big fish eat on small fish. Small fish eat on small organisms like earthworm. The small fish feed on the earthworm or small, and the small animals feed on the phytoplanktons. Okay, small animals are known like zooplanktons also. So this figure shows the aquatic food chain. Okay, so what would happen if the rusty crayfish was removed? Just imagine if the fish is removed from this system. What would happen if you remove aquatic insects and aquatic plant from the. So if we remove the aquatic plant from the aquatic ecosystems, the food chain will not survive there, because the first kind of in the sea also, producers are the primary source of energy. Like they trap the energy from them. So sometimes it is done by chemotrophic bacteria. Some bacteria also at the sea bottom. There are some bacteria, they synthesize the food using chemical. So in the aquatic system there are some different pattern also. Sometimes if the sunlight has not reached up to the bottom, sea bottom, so bacteria do that work. They synthesize the food. This happens at the sea bottom. All about food chain, how the energy flows from by the ecological pyramid. We can show the energy, how the energy, biomass and numbers. So these are three types of ecological pyramid. Using these pyramid, we can show the ecological relationship among the different trophic level of ecosystem. Like energy pyramid, energy loss and transfer between trophic. So energy pyramid shows energy loss and transfer between trophic levels. So it shows the size of each layer represent the amount of energy available at the trophic level. So by the size you can see. So there is the energy transfer. Now you can see in the figure energy transfer from primary level to like primary producer to primary consumer, then secondary consumer, then tertiary. So you can see available energy decreases as we move up So this is the pyramid of energy. So energy decreases as we move up in the ecosystem, in the food chain. So only about 10% of energy is transferred from one trophic level to another. This is the rule. So the 90% energy is lost to the environment. So energy cannot be created and destroyed. So it is only transferred, but only 10% energy is transferred in the ecosystem from one trophic level to another. The rest of the energy remains available at the producer level. Pyramid of energy flow, 10% passed on to the next level. Why? So where did the energy goes? Because we cannot eat, no animal can feed on the whole forest. So producers are more in number, plant diversity is more, so the only 10% is energy is transferred from that level, from producer to. So by this figure you can imagine, by this figure it is clear, you can see the bar, so long green bar, this is more in number than herbivore, number of herbivores are given here. So by the depiction you can clearly see the sky blue color, these are the consumer, these are all consumer, and how much energy they can transfer. So the less energy is transferred from, okay, only 10% energy is transferred from one trophic level to another. All becomes heat in the end. Okay, the rest of the energy at each trophic level, the bulk of energy received from previous level is used by the organism who obtained it. Less and less energy is available as we move up to the pyramid. So as we move up, so less and less energy is available. Energy released as heat energy and lost to the ecosystem. So in the figure you can see there the phytoplanktons, like a small plant in the ocean, okay, then small creatures, small insect, then frog, then okay. So there are different kinds of, okay. Now come to the pyramid of biomass. It represents the mass weight of all the living organisms within that trophic level. So in each ecosystem, whether it is aquatic, whether it is water or terrestrial, so the energy is less at each. Now same thing happens with the biomass. So plants are more in number. So as we move up in the pyramid, the level of the biomass number decreased. So because lion, it exists on the top level, so tertiary consumers are very less in the environment. Now you can see how much lion you can see in the forest. Also you can see the few lions. So nowadays this has become extinct, so they are on the verge of extinction. So we need to work on that. These species have become endangered. So this is happening with the pyramid. So pyramid of biomass, it shows the number decreased as we move up in. This data show like tertiary consumer, dry weight of tertiary consumers is 1.5 gram per. This is the dry weight. Secondary consumers 11. Then primary consumer 37. And primary producer A0 809 gram per meter square. So this is the pyramid of biomass. So you can compare. So it decrease. Most biomass pyramids shows a sharp decrease in biomass at successively higher trophic levels, illustrated by data from BOG at Silver Spring, Florida. So this is the example of from the Silver Spring, Florida. This figure shows that. Now come to the numbers pyramid, represents the number of organs that make up each trophic level. What number shows? Like how many number? Like forest ecosystem, the tiny plant, feeding plant, insect in the second trophic level outnumber the trees in the first trophic level. Okay, so in the forest you can see the tiny plant, the short plant, they are more in number in comparison to the trees. So there are the different trees in the forest, but the number of the small herbaceous plants are more in number in comparison to trees. So like at producer level also we have different varieties of the plants. So now come to the caterpillar, blue, so they are less in number in comparison to plants. So producers are, so if we compare, like if we consider only tree, so tree are very less. In the first figure you can see this less number of tree, because tree are very less in number. Okay, in the figure you can see, and caterpillars are more, insects are more in number. Then blue teats and sparrowhawk, so they are more in number in comparison to higher plants. But if we consider, like in the forest, if we consider herbaceous plant like short shrubby plants, then the producers are more in number. But in the forest, you can consider the plants are less in number in comparison to caterpillars. In comparison to plant, caterpillars are more. And insects are more. In any forest you go, so there are more insects we find than the plants, higher plants. But you can see the small plants are, if we consider the small plant, the producer are more in number. But nowadays we are able to see there are more insects in the atmosphere if we compare it to plants. So this is the variation that is found. Plant feeding insect in the second trophic level outnumber the trees, so they are exceeding their limits, insects are feeding on the plant. So now they are raising their population, they are increasing in the population. So this was the all about how the energy flows, the structure and function of the ecosystem. Now this class is over. If you have any query, any question, you can ask. Okay, if you have any query, you can